Hello and welcome to the weekly process where we are processing life one week at a time using expressive writing and some CBT strategies and also music. I'm Donna, I'm a therapist and writer. And before we get started today, I want to bring up the feeling wheel, which you can use to plot how you feel now and plot how you feel at the end of the exercise. So I've got two versions of this. The first one is one that you can just draw yourselves quite quickly. Hopefully you're using pen and paper to write. If not, it might be a bit trickier on the screen. But if not, you can just, I suppose you could just do a circle on screen or just use the sort of quadrants. So what I do is I try to get a sense of, in the center of the circle here, at the bottom where it says flat, and at the top it says hyper, that's activation. So for that one, it's getting a sense top to bottom or bottom to top, how activated you feel right now. So if you're feeling kind of flat and low in energy, then you're kind of at the bottom end. If you're feeling anxious and apprehensive, you're closer to the top end. So we're looking at the activation in our nervous systems at the moment. And then left to right, or you can do it right to left. Doesn't matter which way around you put these two, but whether that feeling you've got right now feels like a pleasant feeling, so it could be excited, or it could be an unpleasant feeling, anxious, if you're at this top quadrant. And if the bottom one, you could be feeling calm and it's a nice feeling, so that's a pleasant flatness, or it could be flat and low, so that's more of an unpleasant flatness. So if you just plot where you are right now in kind of which quadrant, and you do that by going from bottom to top, how activated, and left to right, how pleasant that feeling is, and just put a number for where you are right now. The other version of this that I've got is called the feeling wheel, which you can download from my website if you find this one helpful. I've just put in a few more words. So it's exactly the same thing, but I've just put in some words for those emotions, and you could put in your own words for how you feel. But as you can see, it's got the same sort of bottom half of the circle is sort of calmer, and then the top where it's more red, that's more activated. So get yourself a sense of how you are feeling right now. And if you don't want to draw or you haven't got pen and paper, just make a note on using words, right? For how you feel right now. Just give yourself a word or a phrase for how that feels right now. And we're now going into our first writing exercise. This is going to be 7 minutes of free writing where you are going to be offloading whatever is on your mind right now, from the past week, or things that you're thinking about with regards to the week that's coming up, anything that's on your mind, get it all out onto the paper. Just make a list if you want to, or you can write about some of those things. You're aiming just for an offload, and just trying to get a sense of what those things are that are on your mind right now, and why they're bothering you. But we're going to go into processing those things in the second writing session. So just get an offload for now, or a brain dump if you want to call it that. It's going to be a 7 minute sort of brain dump, getting it all out onto the page. I've split the writing into a 5 minute and a 2 minute section, but in total it's 7 minutes. So I'll see you in 7 minutes. Hi everyone and welcome back. How did you get on with the offload or the brain dump, if you want to call it that? So that was our first writing session, which is more or less a free writing session. It's where you're doing an offload, and then in our second writing session, we're going to be processing what you have offloaded there. And that's the part that is less free writing and moving more into expressive writing, which is when we are reflecting on and processing the emotions of what came up for us in that first session. And this is why the two writing sessions are important. Professor Pennebaker, the founder of expressive writing, has said that it is more helpful to do the two writing sessions where you are processing what you've offloaded rather than just doing a brain dump exercise. Not that that isn't helpful, but he thinks it's more helpful if you're actually doing that second processing session. So that's why we do two writing sessions in this live, and on this channel. That's why I always tend to do two writing sessions. Now, saying that, you can do your own form of process, and if you want to do offloading and processing for an issue in the first session and then offloading and processing for another issue in the second session, you can totally do it that way. But what is helpful is if you're not just offloading, but you're actually reflecting on what has come up in that offload. So before we go into our second writing session, let's just pause and check in with ourselves. So we're going to do a very quick breathing exercise. It's really just breathing in and letting out a sigh to release. A sigh is quite releasing for the nervous system. So take a big breath in and then let it out like a big sigh. So, and out like a big sigh. And then one more of those. Big breath in and then out like a big sigh. And then one more of those. Big breath in and then out like a big sigh. And as you're letting out that sigh, just checking for any tension in your body, any clenching anywhere, and just release that tension if you can. Right, so we're now going into our second writing session for 7 minutes, where you're processing what came up for you in that first session, or if you want to do it this way, you're also offloading and processing on another issue. Try to keep writing for the full 7 minutes. If you feel like you come to a stop, what I'd like to ask you to do is, and you've still got time left, is just see if you can keep writing and use whatever you can to sort of get yourself back into that writing. Just follow the thread of some thought that comes into your mind and go with that to keep writing until the time is up. Sometimes what I find is that if I continue to write past the point where I feel like I could stop, I find that I write down to a bit of a deeper level on that thing. So it doesn't all, but see if you find that as well. Right, so I'll see you in 7 minutes. Hello and welcome back from our processing session. And how did you get on with that? Did you separate the two into offload and then processing, or did you make each session a bit of a mixture of the two? For me this week, it was a bit of a mixture of the two. And what I also sometimes move into is planning and intention setting for the week to come. Sometimes I do that after the session, but I put that on the slide in case you also wanted to move into that, setting an action plan for any things that have come up for you from that writing. So, what we could do now is actually just go back and plot how we're feeling now. So, if you use just a text word for how you felt at the beginning, then um, how would you say you feel right now? What word would you use for the way that you feel right now after you've offloaded and processed? Is there any shift in how you feel right now? There doesn't have to be, right? But it's interesting sometimes the way that we can feel differently. Certainly about the things that we have written about, if we've written about them in more depth, and can see some other sides to those things. So I'll bring this feeling wheel back up again. The 1 and the 2 there was 1 before and 1 and 2 is after. So wherever you put yourself at the beginning, where would you put yourself now? So how activated do you feel right now from the bottom to the top? And where would you put yourself for how pleasant that feeling feels right now from left to right, where right is a bit more of an unpleasant feeling? Um, if you feel like you could do with another 7-minute writing session because you feel like you haven't fully processed, then that's really important. Set yourself another 7 minutes to feel like you get to the end of your process for this week. And if you feel like you have fully offloaded and processed, then that is your weekly process finished with for this week, and you're done. So I will see you next Sunday. That's the end of our weekly process for today. And hopefully, you feel like you've offloaded and processed the week so that your mind feels clear for the week to come. That's my hope for you from this exercise, and I'll see you next